I'm Sunny on 560. The Answer.
Get the latest weather, traffic, and news updates online at 560theanswer.com. Now, from the Signature Bank Studios.
Insert Democrat socialist here.
Runs the Democratic House floor for 30 plus years running. He's promising this and he's stealing that. Where can you get that kind of money? He's using your house like his own piggy bank. You ought to know by now. You can pay off your house here in Illinois, but you can never keep up with the taxes. Oh, how it's always been the plan to have a taxpayer pay, no doubt. Not a matter of if anymore, but when. You're moving out. I said, when you're moving out.
Top of the morning, Dan and Amy. That song means it's time for our weekly confab with the wirepoints.org folks, talking all things Illinois policy related. Just a related story, because this is just so remarkable, and it speaks to the importance of local elections, something we try to impress upon everybody in advance of April's elections, including in the state of Wisconsin, where there was a key state Supreme Court race. Well,
I remember it well.
Here's the impact. 4-3 decision by the Wisconsin Supreme Court. The legislature in Wisconsin passed a budget to annually increase the limit on how much tax revenue school districts may raise by $325 per pupil for the 2023 2024 and 2024-2025 school year. Increase the limit on how much tax revenue school districts may raise by $325 per student. The governor of Wisconsin, Tony Ivers, using his partial veto power, deleted words and an individual hyphen, making the text say may raise increase the limit on how much tax revenue school districts may raise by $325 per pupil for 2023 through 24-25, meaning an annual tax increase is authorized for the next 402 years. It was intended for 2 school years. He uses his alleged partial veto power to just rewrite it and make it good for 402 years.
402. Do you think he'll still be alive by then?
The argument offered by these justices, these leftist justices in Wisconsin, which is, again, politicians in robes. It's a big problem in the judiciary at every level in this country, and it's really being exposed, the extent of the problem. They argue that the language of the constitutional text regarding the governor's partial veto power in Wisconsin permits striking numbers written out with digits. So if you would have spelled out the numbers, they argue, he couldn't have done what he did, which is to extend a tax increase for 402 years. Because the legislature wrote the numbers as numbers, he could. Yeah. I wish there was enough engagement so unbelievable abuses like this would actually resonate and people would feel morally compelled to participate in what turned out to be quite a high-profile state Supreme Court race, even though so many Trump voters did not participate as anticipated. And, that same goes for all of the various issues that relate to Illinois and the lack of participation here. Oh, by the way, just sort of to bring it home to Illinois, a related story. Another report out on property taxes. You complain about your property taxes? Property taxes are too high, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, right. And report after report, anybody who looks at it, the latest surveyor finds that Illinois metro areas dominate the top 10 list of highest property taxes in the nation. Rockford, number 1.
Wow.
The Chicago, Naperville, Elgin region, number 2. Peoria, number 3. Champaign-Urbana, number 4. Trenton, New Jersey, number 5. Springfield, Illinois, number 6. 5 of the top 6 in the nation. And the response is, what, more money for schools? I just saw state-run media, NPR, or the WBZ version of it in Chicago. Majority of Illinoisans want more money spent on higher education. Sure, why not? Don't connect any of the dots, though. I mean, it's mostly K through 12, of course, but it's just spend, spend, spend. Is there anything anybody wants to spend less on, ever? For more on this, Mark Glennon, founder of Wirepoints.org, joins us. Mark, thanks for being with us. Appreciate it.
Good morning.
Uh-oh. We got bad connect there. Mark?
Mark, you there?
Yeah.
Oh, that's better.
You there?
Yep.
Oh, yeah, we're here.
So the latest lament, or the latest version of an old lament about connecting inputs to outputs, connecting election results to policy consequences. The property tax thing, seems to have people's attention because it's such a hammering, but it doesn't seem to change outcomes very much.
I don't think connecting the dots is the phrase you use. That's in our tagline. That's it. People just got to connect the dots on these things. It's not very complicated. And the trashing of the judicial system, and as a consequence of that kind of thing going on in Wisconsin, it's going to take years, if we ever do it, to restore respect for the legal system after all the weaponization and that kind of shenanigans like you saw in Wisconsin.
Yeah, and just on the property taxes here, I mean, Rockford, Peoria, Champaign-Urbana, Springfield, I mean, those are middle to, in some cases, lower middle income households that are getting blitzed the worst in the nation. It's just, I don't know how many more exclamation points you can put on it until it generates some attention, but it just seems to be difficult to penetrate the consciousness here.
Yeah, my colleagues Ted and John have a good piece up on that. The 27 of the top 50 counties in this new Adam data study are in 27 of the worst are in Illinois, and property can't leave, so they know where to loot taxpayers. You just take it out of their home equity. It keeps going and going and going. There's no stop to it.
But eventually the money runs out. I mean, I have a neighbor who's like, I'm done. If I stay here, I will be completely broke in 3 years. So that's another one gone, another good neighbor gone. But there's no hope for the future. I mean, we have billions and dollars of budget. They released the city budget plan, and we're $1 billion in debt for this year, 1.5 for the next year, and it goes on and on.
It goes on and on. It's hard to tell when things break, but you're right. It can't go on forever. And when we do hit that point, it's not going to be pretty. It's going to get a lot worse before it gets any better, and before people begin connecting the dots, which they're not doing now.
Well, Brandon Johnson said he's going to have to cut spending and cut services. So what services is he going to be cutting?
He has no idea.
We don't know yet.
Yeah. I mean, so do we have any sense of how much more precarious some of these wildly underfunded public sector pension funds are now, just with the last 3 weeks of the markets getting hammered? I just wonder if there's sort of a watch on these pension funds like fire and police in Chicago that are less than 25% funded, just in terms of trying to create some sense of urgency. You see the market come off 25%, for example, you're going to see some pension funds that now are looking at a very short time horizon where they may not be able to pay current beneficiaries.
Yeah, it's hard to tell at this point. It depends on the particular pension, how much they're in bonds and how much in stocks. But it's
Right.
a very large whack. The stock market's down 15% or so on the S&P 500. Bigger funds are mostly tied to that kind of thing. Those smaller, less funded pensions, rather, like in Chicago, are more heavily into bonds. those two are running off. Unfortunately, the bond prices are continuing to drop too. That's a serious, strange issue in itself. So they're going to get whacked from both sides. Both bonds and equities are deteriorating, and we'll see really bad numbers out of these pensions.
It's interesting. State of Mississippi. I like how Illinois, they love to look down. The political class here loves to look down and decry these other states. Oh, Florida this and Texas that. These other states that are just doing gangbusters, or certainly wildly better than Illinois across every quality of life metric. And there's like, oh, Texas, these backward states. They're not cosmopolitan utopias like Illinois. Oh, really? Mississippi is managing to do something about public sector pensions. I read this over at Reason. Mississippi lawmakers have established a Tier 5 level of benefits for new hires beginning in 26, a hybrid plan that introduces defined contribution benefits in combination with a partial pension benefit to slow the growth of pension liabilities and reduce the risk of pension debt. That's driving up costs for taxpayers, of course. The analysts over at Reason indicate that this reform will reduce pension liabilities by more than $80 billion in Mississippi over the next 50 years and could help the state fully fund the public employees' retirement plan decades sooner than its current trajectory. So, I mean, those are big numbers for a small state like Mississippi. But the more important point is that they're looking at making these pension funds solvent and financeable and workable for their beneficiaries, something which we are not doing here in cosmopolitan utopia, Illinois.
And the labor in many of those cases works with the state to improve those things. I mean, take Arizona, for example. A few years ago, they had a constitutional pension protection clause worded almost exactly like ours. They've amended it twice now. The world didn't end. There's no people dumpster diving or going broke in Arizona. Labor did not even challenge that legally, and it went through, and they're in pretty good shape now. So we just continue to ignore the problem. It gets worse and worse every year, and then not even talk. We've gone backwards on this. Remember, we tried significant pension reform back 10 years ago. Court struck it down, so we just throw away the idea, and we've gone backwards.
But I understand from Governor Jellybelly that Illinois remains a jobs magnet, that we're a growing state. We're gaining jobs. We're gaining population. Right. This is what residents are constantly told. Is that true?
This is particularly irritating. Last week they put out a press release saying record number of jobs. That's the non-farm payroll number that comes out every year. It's trivial. It's 6.172 million jobs that we have here. Well, back in 2019, it was 6.137 million jobs, and all the way back in 2008, it was well over 6 million. So we keep bumping up against the old number, but there's no improvement basically in 17 years. So calling it a record means nothing. And in their press release, of course, they slap themselves on the back about how nice a job they're doing promoting job creation. It's just bunk, and those headlines are all over the state right now. Record number of jobs. It means nothing, though. And we've got a piece up on this. Don't be a chump is in the headline. That's the word, chump. We can use that word more often for what people are expected to be when they read many of the headlines across the state.
Yeah, I'm sure Cass would let you borrow chumbalone if you wanted to alternate between chump and chumbalone.
I'm going to get a T-shirt that says that hashtag chumbalone.
No chumbalone.
Chumbalone.
Yeah, don't be a chumbalone. The suit that has been joined, the federal government suit against the state of Illinois, the city of Chicago, now joined by nearly 24 states via their attorneys general. Joined in the sense they filed amicus briefs in support of the federal government's action to withhold federal funds from Illinois because of our sanctuary state jurisdiction.
I sure hope that pressure works, and this is Of course, Kwame Warul wants more money to fund more lawsuits against the Trump administration. We'll see how that works out. I certainly hope that the leverage works to force some revisit of the sanctuary policies. We got probably 600,000 illegals in the state, and they're living someplace. They're driving up housing costs, and it's a real problem. So,
you kidding me? The shelter at Irving and Lakeshore Drive, Irving Park. Sunday, I watched these two moms come out with the finest strollers and the most gorgeous clothes for themselves and their kids. I just don't understand. And they still, I don't know if they're helping them find employment or what they're doing, but there's got to be a plan, and no one knows what that is. As a tax-paying citizen, I'm saying.
No, there's no plan, and Illinois is a drag on the national economy now. Our averages, of course, are way down below the national averages, and that's one of the reasons that the Illinois story is important to the rest of the nation. We are a leech now at this point. It used to be in decades past that Illinois was a net giver to the federal government. Of course, they're not anymore, and the federal government has every right to be very angry about what's going on in Illinois and trying to force them to correct these problems to improve the betterment of the nation as a whole.
Boy, the idea that Illinois as a state is a state dependent, it just seems so poetic and fitting in a dystopian kind of way. Mark Glennon is the founder of Wirepoints, wirepoints.org, all things Illinois policy related. Thanks, Mark.
Thanks so much. Take care.
You too, and he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
Before you see it on TV, share it on Facebook, or read about it in the paper. Hear it here first.